This is the AAOS Career Podcast, part of the Bone Beat Orthopedic Podcast channel. This series features conversations on professional development and growth opportunities within the field of musculoskeletal healthcare. This episode highlights the AAOS Launchpad, a program designed to help support PGY5s before and during the transition from residency to practice. You'll hear from the chair of the AAOS Membership Council about the unique features of the program, and from a fellow who began his Launchpad journey during the 2025 annual meeting.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Rex Lutz, and I'm the host of the AAOS Career Podcast. Today we'll be talking about the AAOS Launchpad program. Joining me to discuss the Launchpad are Dr. Valerie Lewis, the chair of the AAOS Membership Council, and Dr. Max McQuaid, a hand surgery fellow at Rutgers University Hospital and participant in the inaugural Launchpad cohort. Dr. Lewis and Dr. McQuaid, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So I guess I'll start with Dr. Lewis. In a nutshell, can you just explain what the Launchpad experience is for those who are unfamiliar with what this product is?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're trying to do at the Academy is really bring in and help our younger members. The Launchpad is a program that started last year where fifth years are recruited and they will receive mentoring, meaningful guidance, relative and practical insights, as well as dedicated support through a 20-month journey. If they join the Launchpad, they get mentoring from both early and late career fellows. That's something that the younger members said that they really wanted to hear from both physicians who are just starting with their practice as well as older physicians. Tips for successfully navigating and maximizing their fellowship experience. Tips for landing and looking for your first job. And especially in those situations, kind of leadership training. You know, everybody when they start their job is really a leader of a team, even if it's a small team of your APP, your administrative assistant. But I think that's a little bit different from being a resident. And so we've incorporated that as well. Access to board part 1 and part 2 preparation resources. So we've collaborated with the ABOS on that. And then networking with peers and leaders. So we tried to think everywhere where the touch points or where kind of the difficult points were between ending your fellowship and ending your residency and starting your practice, and tried to hit each one of those. We've also incorporated financial education as well as, even retirement planning, because you can never start too soon. And Dr. McQuaid can let us know how it's been going with this first cohort of students or residents.
Yeah, it was advertised to our residency, and it was one of those things that I think was a natural thing for me to get into. I think having resources is always important in really any stage of your career. And so when they were launching this, not to pun intended, I guess, but the way that it was described was that it was post-residency, post-fellowship. And I think those are all things that, especially as someone who only has maybe one family member that's gone through medicine, but it was family medicine and it's not orthopedic surgery. I think the setup of both board preparation, mentorship kind of built in, caked in, and then also really just even having other peers, from around the states to talk about their experiences and their interest in fellowship, hand surgery, spine, etc. And it's been really great so far.
Yeah, that sounds great. So my understanding, Dr. McQuaid, this was your first time going to the Academy meeting?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you got to experience this. So did this help transition you into the meeting and kind of see what the meeting's all about and give you good opportunities to network during the meeting?
Yeah, because I think also there's sometimes like a misconception of like what the meeting is focused on, and that it's maybe not so much geared towards hand surgery and that you can't get as much out of it. But I disagree with that notion. I went there and I opened my eyes to just saying, what sessions could be valuable. And Launchpad did a really good job of kind of outlining some key events and key lectures throughout the week. And I found, I would say 99% of them really, really valuable. So I was really happy about that. And like you had talked about, Dr. Lewis, I think a lot of the lectures, especially from the folks that have gone through this and been in career for 20 plus years, having those lectures of just what what I did, what I would have done, what I should have done kind of lectures are really valuable. I think especially when you're in that position of being in your last year of residency, to kind of get a little bit of an understanding of, things that maybe you've already asked yourself or didn't even know you should be asking. So it was very good.
Yeah, that's great that you brought that up. So the program starts at the academy, and one of the things that the Launchpad does for its crew members is help them create a kind of personalized academic or academy experience. So, Dr. McQuaid, his would be geared more towards hand versus, if I was in it, would be geared more towards tumor. Because I think the academy can seem very daunting because it's very large. There are so many different talks, but the Launchpad really helps its crew members kind of concentrate on what's specifically relevant to them, and that complements the program that we have for the crew members at the academy as well. So we start off with a reception where they meet each other, and this year they'll meet each other and the new cohort. They meet the mentors or the crew chiefs who also come to it, and we have the presidential line come as well. And so that's a great kind of mixer to start off, where you start with camaraderie, and then they have meetings and special events for the rest of the academy.
It sounds like there's a lot of energy with everybody, and I'd imagine this year with the second cohort, which from what I understand is going to be larger than the first, inaugural cohort.
Yeah, we increased the number this year.
That's awesome. When everyone gets together, do you break them up into with their subspecialty of choice, or how does that work throughout the week?
Yeah, again, it was I think it was the inaugural meeting, and so we had our kind of crews set up, like our sub crews set up, and ours was mainly hand surgery. And my understanding, at least just from looking around the room and talking to other people, that there was a spine group and there's a joints group, and as much as possible. And again, like I mentioned, I thought that was really helpful. I think we started off with more generalized kind of career advice and job interviews, and I think we even got into contracts, which I think you can't ever hear talks about contracts enough because it's such a foreign topic, especially as a resident. Like, it's like the last thing you're thinking about or know about. And then we got a little more in depth into exploring the space of career hunting, if you will, for hand surgery.
Yeah, so I think it will be easier this year to divide people by their subspecialties. When you have a few people, I'm sure there was like one tumor person there, you can just talk to themselves. But as we expand the cohort, I think the sub crews will be a little bit more flushed out.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. McQuaid, what lecture or, small group discussion, whatever it may be, was most useful to you as going and entering your career?
Yeah, I think especially board preparation at that kind of point in time, it's where you're kind of thinking about it. So we talked a little bit about that, but I think I really just wanted some kind of notes to refer back to when it came to finally actually looking for a job. So we spent a lot of time on that in one of our sub-crew meetings at AAOS. And that was invaluable. It seemed we all had the same questions. And so one person would ask a question, oh yeah, I was thinking about that too, like one of those things. And it was just, so we all kind of springboarded off each other. And Dr. I'm going to butcher her last name, O'Shaughnessy, was there. And she was a great soundboard of just, hey, you're not crazy. That's exactly what it's like. Or no, it's actually not that way. These are some things, resources to use. Both like, AAOS related, like Accelerate was a one that she had mentioned, but, a little more hand surgery specific was this like membership directory and like things that I would never have thought to look into. So it was very insightful. And again, like I said, like I wasn't in the thick of trying to interview or even reach out to practices yet, but it was kind of like a put it away until I'm done with boards and everything, and that I can refer back to. And it's been really useful.
Dr. Lewis, I ran into you at a meeting at the academy, and you had a lot of energy about you because you apparently just came from the Launchpad event. So can you talk to me about the energy that was at the Launchpad event and the things that you witnessed there that were exciting for you?
Yeah, I think the very first event was very exciting. I think the crew members were a little nervous, but I think they loosened up. With the beer and the appetizers. No, but I'm serious. I think they loosened up as they talked to each other. We did a really strong recruitment. So not only were crew chiefs there, but quite a few of the board members were there. I brought along with me. And I think that I think that was exciting for the crew members also to meet the members of the board of directors. I don't know if they were necessarily knew that they were the board of directors, but everyone we brought was very proficient in their field. I'm just thinking of Min Coker, who's an amazing pediatric sports, and anyone going into pediatric sports, peds or sports, really enjoyed meeting him. So I liked that the not just the crew chiefs, but the academy volunteers really stepped up and made it a great and very welcoming reception.
Sounds like a great opportunity to network with a lot of surgeons who you may not
absolutely
run into.
And I always, you always say you never should have one mentor, but someone truly savvy kind of collects mentors, because you'll have mentors for different part of your life. You'll have a academic mentor, you'll have a research mentor, you'll have a clinical mentor, you'll have a social mentor, a life coach. And so this is just another opportunity to meet people who've somewhat gone through the same, track of you, and, how can they help you, or how can you kind of meet them on a middle ground where they can help you with your career. I do want to play off one of the things that Dr. McQuaid said, was because aside from kind of the virtual or the seminars or webinars we have during the year, we do have a lot of good articles that we've collated from, kind of the academy's repertoire. And so not only do they have those articles, but we are creating new information and new opportunities for the Launchpad. So we're going to do more leadership, with the presidential line, as well as, people in private practice, how do they use AI to improve their practice? Just small kind of interesting webinars that people can tune into on their own time. That will be kind of a glossary for our Launchpad members.
That was actually going to be my next question. What happens after what does the timeline look like after the annual meeting for the next 2 years as you're a crew member for the Launchpad?
Well, they'll stay hopefully connected with their crew chiefs, as well as connected with their the members of their both subcrews and their membership together. And then anything that they concentrated on during their initial year can be supplemented and can be re-reviewed as time goes on. But they'll also have different opportunities, because clearly Part 1 and Part 2 of the boards are separated by 2 years. So we do supply information and guidance on both of those. I think the leadership opportunities, the leadership knowledge opportunities will also be there. And I know they'll definitely go back and continue to kind of watch those and learn about those. So it is a longer ongoing process. It may be concentrated during the first year, but we do have continued guidance for the next 2 years, really till they're up and running in practice.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you bring up with the Part 2, because, Part 1 you take during residency, you have your colleagues right there with you who can, senior residents who can talk to you about what they went through. But then as you become an attending and go into Part 2, it's probably you become a little bit more isolated. So that mentorship can be very beneficial at that time period.
Absolutely.
Dr. McQuaid, how have you taken advantage of the Launchpad opportunities since the annual meeting?
Yeah, I have loved the resources that are on there. I find myself either on a drive back and forth from fellowship back home, or even during residency, going to and from work every day, and especially during boards, doing the dishes, taking care of errands and stuff like that. I just pop open the Launchpad website and listen to a few board review videos, or watch a few board review videos. And you haven't gone through this yet, Dr. Lutz, but you will soon. It's just you feel like you can't get enough resources, and of course you have to limit them. But I think that was really helpful for me to just have that resource. And again, I'm a visual person, so it was really helpful to have these really great and very succinct videos on all the different kind of high yield topics, if you will, for board review, just and very easily accessed, and I can play it at any time. From the other resources that are there, like Dr. Lewis mentioned, from career advice standpoint, CVs, interview prep, I think there's even some contract negotiations things on there as well. And so again, as I've gotten a little bit more involved with job hunting and interviewing, I've been able to reference those, and they have been really, really good and very helpful.
Okay, so there's other sources besides just talking to your mentor. It sounds like there's a whole curated section with board review material and just other resources as well, which is kind of at your fingertips at any time. That's convenient for you to use as well.
Absolutely, because although we don't want it to be, the academy can kind of be siloed, and it's really hard to look through all the opportunities it has to offer. But we've been curating things from practice management committees that are really relevant to these years in a resident and young attending's life, so it can be all in one area. How to negotiate with Medicaid, all those type of things, which you don't think about when you're coming out of residency. But I think the curated part of it is actually particularly helpful, and I like that it can be done in their own time. So residents can read these and review these things on their own time, as well as, attending the kind of dedicated webinars. But yeah, it's a combination of didactic and Socratic learning kind of.
Yeah, there's a big learning curve I'd imagine I'm going to experience over the next few years here. So Launchpad would definitely be helpful in easing that learning curve. So Dr. McQuaid, who is your main mentor through the Launchpad program? Do you have one specific mentor? Is there a few? How does that work?
Yeah, so I think, Dr. Again, I apologize wherever you are, Dr. O'Shaughnessy, if that's how you pronounce it. But she was really great at the meeting. I intend on getting even more in touch with her as I go along in the job hunt. But also, again, another last name I'm going to probably butcher is Dr. Sarkissian, I believe is how you pronounce it. He's another crew chief, and he led a webinar kind of like break-off group when we were talking about job hunting, and he was so transparent and he's just really willing to share his story. And that was really powerful, I think, for all of the members that were listening to him. They fielded questions, and he was very open to expanding the conversation in the future. And I have been very grateful for that. And so he doesn't know it yet, but I intend on reaching out to him much more as I, again, get along in my interview trail for a job.
That's great. And Dr. Lewis, what kind of feedback have you received from residents so far about the Launchpad program?
I think they seem enthusiastic. We have gotten some feedback on the offerings, and so that's one of the reasons why we've been curating the Academy's offerings a little bit more. But I always think everything is slow to start and then takes off. I think the crew was very excited during the Launchpad, and with this second cohort, I think they'll be even more engaged than the first cohort.
So what kind of changes do you expect with the second cohort, if any?
Well, I think there are definitely more members, so I definitely think the crews will be a little bit bigger, but they'll also have more cruise opportunities. We're also recruiting different crew chiefs, so that will be great as well. As not to harp on it, but we're actively creating content, and I think that will be exciting for the crew members. And one of the things I encourage the crew members is to, if there's something that they were interested in or something that they want to know that they didn't see, definitely to reach out to us, because I think that feedback is really important. Because clearly, what I think is important as an attending for 20 years maybe not was the same thing as important for Dr. McQuaid. So I do think that feedback is important, especially depending on what people go into. I think it's important that we remember that not everybody goes into, I'm in academics or salary, which means I have a completely different life than the majority of orthopedic surgeons. So that feedback of what we'd like to hear is also incredibly important as well, because it's a very mobile platform, and we really want to provide the residents and junior attendings things that they want and they would find valuable. So I do encourage the continued feedback. So Max, send me an email if there's something that you think we should add to it. That would be super great.
I'll definitely do that.
So applications just opened up. I actually just applied on October 1st, so I'm
I think
looking
we're full.
forward
Sorry,
to that.
Rex.
What's that?
I said, I think we're full. Sorry, Rex.
That being said, it's a little too late for me, but for others who are listening who might want to apply, what are some key things that you look for in the applicants to become a crew member?
I think enthusiasm is really important. And I actually do not think, I don't want people not to apply because they have not done a lot of things with the Academy. I think this is the perfect way to kind of get your first exposure to the Academy. And, if we had, 200 people apply this next time, that I think that would be super great because we're just looking to expand it every year. But I think the key thing is enthusiasm. But it's like anything, hard work, dedication, enthusiasm, that's your life. And that's my answer to any question that residents or fellows ask.
That's good advice. And then, Dr. McQuaid, what would you say would be your reason to have PGY5s apply to be part of the Launchpad?
Yeah, I think to talk about myself just for a second is that I think mentorship is an incredibly invaluable tool and an incredibly valuable part of any stage of your life, like I think I mentioned. And during my gap between med school and residency when I was in the Navy, there was no one that had kind of gone before me that had written it down and kind of offered up their time and their efforts and everything. And so I think when you're a resident, you kind of hear all these stories and a lot of it's anecdotal and it's not really from the primary source, if you will. And so I think that this Launchpad allows for that access to someone that has either, very recently gone through it, had, it's in their rearview mirror, but they remember, some of those details, but then they can tell you more about, their advanced career, right, in orthopedics or in whatever subspecialty they're involved in. And so I think that particular component to me was the most enticing, and that's why I wanted to be part of this program, excuse me.
And I think Dr. McQuaid touches on a good point. Having a mentor who's early in a career as well as a mentor in their late career, I think that's invaluable, right? So what's immediately in your rear view mirror is really important, but the late career members can tell you what we should have done, because our rear view mirror is a little bit bigger. So we can say what we should have done while the early careers can tell you like what it's like and what's going on right now. And so I really like that combination of the early career and late career feedback and members.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the broad brushstrokes and then the fine brushstrokes with all the different experience levels there. Well, Dr. Lewis and Dr. McQuaid, I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining us and educating us on the Launchpad experience. I'm really looking forward to applying. Speaking of applying, you can apply to be a crew member or a crew chief at AAOS.org/Launchpad. Applications for the current Launchpad are now open.
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing lots of strong applications.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Lutz. And Dr. Lewis, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, Dr. McQuaid. Good seeing you, Dr. Lutz.
All right, you too. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the AAOS Career Podcast, part of the Bone Beat Orthopedic Podcast channel, hosted by Dr. Rex Lutz and featuring special guests Dr. Valerie Lewis and Dr. Max McQuaid. Production and editing by MK Quinn Media. To learn more about Launchpad and to apply to be a crew member, visit AAOS.org/Launchpad. The application deadline for the second cohort is December 31st, 2025. To hear other conversations on professional development, please visit AAOS.org/TheBoneBeat.